Today we are installing a set of Clancy Pogues drop ball joints on a 98 Crown Vic. On the passenger side here we've already installed it, and you can see how that tire has correct camber, and this tire over here is cambered in on the top. We're just going to mark where these are facing, and that's going to help us putting it back together. We'll need to check the alignment afterwards anyways, but this at least gives us somewhere to start. The bolt that's holding this ball joint in has an 18mm head on both sides. Top nuts right here are 22mm. You'll want to use a jack to put some pressure on the lower control arm so that these can come out. It's also good to mark which one was the rear and which one was the front. Once this comes out, that knuckle's going to want to flop. How these adjust your caster and camber, that little offset lobe moves inside there and pushes it back and forth. These new ball joints drop down about 3.5 inches. They're reinforced, and I've heard a lot of people that will bend these arms before these fail. Install this bolt, smack your brake line. So that's the rear. As you tighten those down, you want to make sure that under here you don't have a gap, because if those cam lobes aren't sitting into those pockets correctly, it'll bind up on this and you'll hurt stuff. If these are spinning on you, you can hold that lower section with an adjustable wrench right there so that your marks stay in the right place. If you plan on installing a lift spacer, I highly recommend putting these ball joints on before. So now that we've got the ball joints installed, what we'll do is we'll pop the lower ball joint and then drop that down and install this spacer. All right, it's been a couple months and these ball joints have been put to the test. They've got several thousand miles on them. They've done a really good job. I can confirm that the ball joints are stronger than the arms. Jessica got the front end of this car off the ground and it bent arms, but the ball joints are perfectly fine. The 98 to 2002 Vics, when they get lifted, they camber in pretty bad. These ball joints help correct that, and they also allow the lifted Vics to have some downward travel left in the suspension. Without that extension, that arm is usually pressed up right against the frame, and it's a super stiff ride because there's just no up travel left. To give a comparison, this is one of the competitors' drop ball joints. It's inferior in every way. Without the reinforcement up here, this has folded in to where this was contacting the frame bad. The ball joint went out in just a little bit of time, and the ball joint is full welded in all the way around. That sounds like a good idea until you have to change one. So Ontrack-Offroad has tacked the ball joints so that they're secure, but you can still change them if you need to. Also, these adjusters are way too big. We couldn't get alignment even close, and it just didn't work out. On this car, for the time being, we're going to try and do a taller bump stop. That way the suspension doesn't overcompress and bend those upper arms. That's really the weak point of the 98 to 02 chassis, is the upper arms just really can't handle a lot of abuse. The 2003 Plus is a much stronger front end, so if you want to jump your Crown Vic, either buy an 03 Plus, which will usually sustain smaller jumps, or you can do something like we put under one of our other Vics. The twin I-beam setup is extremely strong, and donor trucks are very cheap. So if you're interested in more information on how to put a beam setup under your Vic, we've got a video coming out fairly soon about our 98 Crown Vic Ron Burgundy.